The Oklahoma Sooners are getting some great news on the injury front.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning and subscribing to the show. We're part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move or be moved. I'm Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. That is John Williams from SoonersWire.com and USA Today Sports. Go read all of his articles because they're always fantastic. And John, we've got some fun stuff to talk about today. We're going to jump into a lot of people are actually still riding with the Sooners at a surprising rate. Main reason is because we got to ask the question, is Michael Hawkins ready? But first, we're going to lead off with the most important thing of the day, John, injury updates. There's some injury and some practice updates that Brent Venables kind of, slid out there for everybody yesterday, especially because John Mateer had his surgery yesterday on that thumb. And now we get to talk about people that are healthy.
Yeah, it's exciting. Eli Bowen, Javonnie Gibson actually participating in practice. That's a great sign. I mean, both those guys being available on their way back to being game day ready, it's huge for the Sooners. Depth matters. Having rotational pieces on your roster, even if you believe in guys like Cortland Guillory and Gentry Williams and Jacoby Johnson and Kendall Dolby on the outside, we've seen Eli Bowen play really good football for this team. Having him available means you have another really good player available for your cornerback room.
Yeah, you're going to need that depth especially because that room is pseudo inexperienced. You have Gentry Williams, who's been around for a while, and he's shown he has flashes of greatness. So we're just waiting for him to make sure that he's at 100%, especially coming back from the shoulder surgery and then dealing with, I think it was like a growing injury after like the first couple of weeks. I think it was the Michigan game he got hurt. And so now you're bringing back another experienced guy to go out there with Cortland Guillory, giving those guys an opportunity to get a break. And to me, that's probably one of the more important things. We know that this defense is going to be stout, and the one thing we want to improve on is the secondary. And honestly, John, this year we're seeing an improvement in that area. Statistically, this team is not allowing very many yards as people actually think. If you go back and look, Jackson Arnold had the most so far at 220 yards. And if they can continue this pace, there's a good chance that this defense finishes in the top 5, especially in raw numbers this coming season.
Yeah, you look at the game they played against Auburn, and they were able to limit Jackson Arnold a little bit, but they still got beat at the quarterback position on the outside. There were several opportunities for Jackson to connect with those wide receivers and just overthrew them, missed them. And so having Eli Bowen available, he's a smart player, he's an experienced player, played a lot of snaps last year. It helps. It helps everything on your defense when you have someone with his playmaking ability. Oklahoma hasn't gotten a turnover yet. Getting Eli Bowen back into the fold, who had that big interception against Alabama, maybe that helps a little bit. Javonnie Gibson coming back also helps your wide receiver room immensely, helps a guy like Michael Hawkins Jr., who we'll talk about in the second segment. But your wide receiver room's looked really good so far. Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, Keontez Lewis. You just need more, and you need more depth because it's a long season. And as we've seen, injuries can start to pile up and mount up. And if you don't have experience, you don't have pass catchers available to you, it can certainly impact your offense's ability to move the ball. Javonnie Gibson was the star of spring ball by all accounts. He was out there constantly making plays for John Mateer in the passing game and blocking really well in the running game. So not that the run game is needing the wide receivers to step up necessarily to get it going, but it'll help. So getting Javonnie Gibson back is huge.
Yeah, to me, I agree with you 100%. That is where I think things are really big for Oklahoma is last year the biggest problem you ran into was you couldn't get guys to get healthy. Well, now you're starting to actually get healthy as the season progressed. And to me, that's what leads to you being able to make deep runs and finish off with strong seasons. How healthy are you later in the season is way more important, honestly, than the beginning sometimes. And not saying that it's not important all season long, just more so pointing out that if these guys are continuously progressing towards being healthy going later into the season, especially when we hit this 5-game gauntlet from Kent State all the way down to traveling to Tennessee, if you're able to be healthy all the way through that, there's a chance you can still make a really deep run. And the good thing for Oklahoma is that despite the fact that Mateer could miss a couple of games, you can still put yourself in a position to, even if he comes back by Texas or right afterwards at South Carolina, you still got a chance to make a run into the SEC championship game. None of that stuff is dead in the water until you see what John Mateer looks like coming off of that thumb surgery. So I love that Javonnie is back. He was one of John's favorite targets. And if I'm correct, Michael Hawkins threw him a lot of passes as well because he's a big body wide receiver that really was truly a diamond in the rough that we picked up. And he's going to do nothing but, like I said, enhance that room. Because I'm still waiting for us to really get going with some of the young players, too. Like, I'm ready to see more Zion Kearney. I'm ready to see Elijah Thomas hit the field. That's all we've talked about. And the way that he's been playing on special teams, John, I expect him to hit the field soon. But Javonnie being out there is really going to help give the wide receivers a good rotation of people. And heck, at this point, we know Satania feels like he's playing like a number one. Same thing with Deion Burks. But having a big dude like Javonnie take some pressure off their back and the way Keontez Lewis has been playing, we may have ourselves a nice rotation of wide receivers going forward.
Well, it gives Ben Arbuckle a lot of options because he can run 4 wide receivers. He can even run a lot more empty with no running backs on the field, using Jaren Kanak as the tight end and really spread things out going 5 wide. And have a lot of dynamic playmakers on the field. And I think that's the key. Last year in 2024, you had wide receivers. You just didn't have playmakers, in my opinion, guys that were going to go make the play. Well, this year you're seeing guys like Isaiah Satania and Deion Burks go make the play. Keontez Lewis, go make the play. Jaren Kanak, go make the play. Javonnie Gibson is another one of those kind of dudes that is going to go make the play. There's a big difference between catching passes and making plays. Making plays is, hey, I have to go win my battle. I have to go win this 50-50 ball. I have to go show myself available for the quarterback and make sure that he knows that I'm open in this situation. So it's just a lot more options for Ben Arbuckle, especially as this run game is not really doing anything yet. You haven't really found any consistency. It's not really a functional part of the offense at the moment. It's just hey, we got to run it just to keep them honest part of the offense, and that's not a great place to be. That's something they've got to improve coming out of the bye week. But if you have the ability to go 5 wide and run a lot of mesh concepts with Kanak and Burks and Satania over the middle and use those, or use the wide receiver screen or the bubbles or the jet sweeps as an extension of your run game, and then you've got those big guys in Keontez Lewis and Javonnie Gibson on the outside, it does open up options for you. Again, there's no replacement for a functional and a good running game, but if you're a smart offensive coordinator, which I believe Ben Arbuckle is, he's going to find some options using the passing game and getting all these guys involved.
No, that's exactly what I see him going with. You've got too many weapons. Well, you got a lot of weapons, not too many. You can never have too many, but you can outthink the room sometimes with how many that you have. And I think Javonnie can help simplify a lot of that, because I know that a lot of things that they were doing had him in mind after his breakout spring. And then when he got injured, you're like, all right, what are we going to do? You still saw a bunch of plays being made. And as like I said, Satania feels like him and Burks have really stepped out of being those dudes, catching the difficult passes. The timing feels like it's right there with Mateer. Now we got to see what the timing looks like with Michael Hawkins, and I think he'll be able to figure that out. But I'm glad that Javonnie can now add to it. And I know I've seen people ask this like crazy about Javonnie Gibson. I would not bank on seeing him at all this season. You kind of don't need him.
No.
Right? You really don't have to play him. You things look good with the fact that you have Javonnie coming back, and then you still have Jermichael Carter, who had J-Mike hasn't played yet. You still, and then K-Lou, and then Satania Burks. We've seen some Zion Kearney on the field. You saw a little Ivan Carry-On, which is interesting as well. But
they love Ivan Carry-On.
They really do. Well, I mean, I love him. He's 6'6". He's a giant. So yeah, it's great to have players like that. But we've got a lot of those that we can rotate and play with. So that's the good thing, is we've got a good rotation. So I'd keep him shelved, make sure that his knee is good, and before you even try to put him back on the field.
Yeah, there's no need to put him on the field at all. But hey, things are looking up. I know there's a lot of concern and worry with Michael Hawkins Jr. taking over at quarterback for the foreseeable future, at least until John Mateer is available. But listen, guys, this is a different quarterback than Oklahoma's going to be getting than he was last year. We'll talk about it coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
It's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. So for the Oklahoma Sooners, of course, it's got to be John Mateer. He delivered in a huge way. That final drive, even with, now that we know, an injured thumb, he led Oklahoma down to take the lead, and our defense closed it out. When the pressure was on, John Mateer came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, of course, this performance wasn't a fluke. You knew it was coming. John Mateer is on a streak. And just like John Mateer delivered for the Sooners, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you can get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Like for me, got to look at my Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into this season. Y'all know that I travel a lot. As you can see, I'm traveling for work now, and I have the opportunity to take advantage of some of these numbers for my Bucks. Maybe I can get, Baker Mayfield out here to get us another win, a fourth straight game-driving win. Hopefully, it can just blow them out so I don't have to think about it. But the fun part about playing it with FanDuel is it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to my Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Michael Hawkins Jr. takes over at quarterback for the bye week for Kent State. Brent Venables has already named him as the starter. And depending on John Mateer's recovery, his rehabilitation, his timeline, Michael Hawkins Jr. could be making his second straight start in the Red River Showdown. So let's ask the question, though, Jay. Is Michael Hawkins ready to take over at quarterback?
I feel like he is. I think this is the perfect spot to play him, especially because the difference between this year and last year, and as we talked about last segment, wide receiver health and pass protection. So went through, looked at it. PFF has us rated on the pass blocking. We are a top 35 team in the country in pass blocking grades. And the pass pro has been really good. Like, as much as, we want to complain about things, there's not much to complain about on that side. Not only is Jake Michael, Fabechi Wewu, and most of your big hikers, Derek Simmons, they've all grade in the 70s and the plus, with Wewu and Michael in the 80s, mid to late 80s. So, Yeah, it really is. That's actually really good. That's NFL caliber grading is what that is. And so I take a lot of them with a grain of salt. I've told y'all this before on their grades or whatnot, but just the fact that they've done a really good job of preventing pressures and done a really good job of making sure that Mateer wasn't running for his life. Like, you had some plays where just the defense schemed up some stuff. You're never going to be 100%. That's why none of these grades are ever 99, 95, 98, 99 when it comes to that, because it's tough. Yeah. No matter what you do, some blitz schemes and concepts are going to do that. But the good thing is that, I mean, they've only given up roughly about 37 pressures, and a lot of that's been in garbage time. So we've done well in the protection. And so to me, that's what's going to make Michael Hawkins ready. He's been going up against one of the best, if not the best defensive lines in college football right now. And because of that, he's now understanding how to get rid of the ball quickly. He's understanding moving around the pocket, or when the pocket shifts, he knows how to follow it. And so to me, I think that he'll be ready for this one.
Well, I think it just starts a lot with Ben Arbuckle and John Kusiewski. You've got two guys who have developed quarterbacks. I mean, they're guys that were at Western Kentucky and took a Bailey Zappi and put him into the NFL from Western Kentucky. I mean, you took a guy from Incarnate Word and Cam Ward, and in a couple seasons turned him into a Heisman front runner and the number 1 overall pick. Even though he finished his career at Miami, a lot of the foundational stuff was done with Ben Arbuckle and John Kusiewski. And we've seen him take 3-star quarterback John Mateer, who had just one Power 4 offer from Washington State. I mean, that dude was heading to Arkansas State?
Central Arkansas.
Okay. Central Arkansas before Ben Arbuckle and John Kusiewski showed up at his door, metaphorically speaking. And then it turned him into one of the better quarterbacks in college football. In some people's estimations, the best quarterback in college football. So that's, to me, where it starts. Michael Hawkins has spent the last 9 months learning, being developed by, being built up by, being encouraged by Ben Arbuckle and John Kusiewski, who have a track record for providing and developing really good quarterback play and really good offenses. So to me, that's where it starts. I'm excited to see where Michael Hawkins has grown, because this is going to be a different quarterback. Aside from everything else around him that's completely different than what it was a year ago when he had to play as a true freshman, mind you, he's going to be a different quarterback.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think a lot of us aren't seeing. And I get that a lot of people are concerned because of the Temple, the end of that game and kind of how that went. Totally understand that. It wasn't the best showing in the first game. It looked like he was kind of cold and getting going, but now that he knows it's his show, she's going to go out there and he should be a completely different type of player. We'll learn Kent State, if anything, and that's the perfect game. Because remember, and I think you mentioned this before as well, but I've been hearing this also go around, which is the perfect statement. We didn't have a warm-up game for Michael Hawkins last year.
No.
Game one, he got in the second half of the Tennessee game, which honestly is not a warm-up game, nope. Was his warm-up. And then he goes out there and travels to Auburn. My goodness. And it was mainly because, like I mentioned before, we were so quote unquote inept on offense last season, even in those first 3 games against Temple with a blowout win, Houston with a very narrowly getting out win, and then Tulane, which the score really doesn't reflect how dominant the Sooners were. You didn't play with the dominance that you should have. And so Hawkins didn't get that real tune-up. Now he gets a full game against a team that is really bad. Like, nothing against them, but all against them, 100% shade. They're not a good team.
Not good.
Florida State put up, 700 yards of total offense on them last week? 770-something yards. Gavin Sawchuk, shout out to our old friend, I think he had almost 200 yards rushing in that game. Like, if there's anything that should happen here is Hawkins should have a lot of pressure taken off his back because the run game should get figured out. And we'll talk about this in the next segment, but I have a lot of expectations on who's going to play and how that's going to help us with being able to be quote unquote prepared for this one. There's a lot that we got to do. Let's just put it that way, John. And as long as we do what we're supposed to, I think we're going to be fine.
In that Temple game just a couple weeks ago, Michael Hawkins just had some heat check moments. It's like, hey, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to throw the ball as far as I can throw the ball. And were they great throws? No, they were not. But that wasn't running the offense. That wasn't,
right.
Leading Oklahoma's offense. It was just, screw it. Let's just chunk the ball down there and just see what happens. And they were able to draw a pass interference call on one of those. So to me, that is a positive when you're able to draw a pass interference call because Elijah Thomas is getting hung on to by the Temple defender. That's a win for your quarterback. I don't care that the throw didn't turn out to be great. It's a win for your quarterback. But he looked good running the ball. And that's the thing that's going to be very different with Michael Hawkins Jr. versus John Mateer. Now, John Mateer, power runner, is able to make a lot happen with his legs. He's got good agility, good speed. Michael Hawkins, he is different, though.
He is.
He is fast with the ball in his hands. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see how Ben Arbuckle uses that and opens that up a little bit. But again, this is a totally different team than what he played with last year. You mentioned the Tennessee game. Tennessee was one of the best defenses in college football last year.
It really
Auburn
was
a really solid defense at different times of last season. They had a lot of good defenders. They're still on that team. We saw a lot of those guys this past weekend as well. Texas, one of the best defenses in college football last year. South Carolina, one of the best defenses in college football last year. Those were the games that Michael Hawkins Jr. got his first taste of college football action. Obviously, it was not going to go well for a true freshman on an offense that was battered, bruised, beaten with all of those injuries. It just wasn't a great situation for any quarterback. It wasn't for Jackson Arnold. It wasn't for Michael Hawkins Jr. It wouldn't have been for Dylan Gabriel or Baker Mayfield or the second coming of the Messiah. It would not have been a good situation for anybody to try to quarterback in. So, take anything that you saw last year with a grain of salt. Even the Navy game, when they were playing with a group that was, again, a lot of guys transferred out before that game. A lot of guys were sitting out because of the NFL draft. It wasn't this team. This team is a completely different team. You mentioned it from a pass protection standpoint. They're a much better pass pro team than they were last year when they couldn't block anybody. Remember the Ole Miss game where Oklahoma's offensive line allowed the most sacks ever in that game? Remember against South Carolina when we're trying to block Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart with our tight ends who weren't very good to begin with? Like, that was the offense in which Michael Hawkins Jr. and Jackson Arnold were trying to function, and it was terrible.
It was really bad.
Let's not extrapolate a true freshman's first experience at the college football level and believe that that's the same cat that you're going to see this year. Let's give him an opportunity to go and show that he's developed, that he's a better player than what he showed last year, and that he's in a more functional offense than what he was last year. Let's just give it a chance. Like Future said in 8 Mile, give a man a chance. Give a man a chance. And that's all I got to say. And we're still riding with the Sooners. A lot of national analysts are as well. We'll discuss that coming up on Locked On Sooners.
This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. And there are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move the crowd, more culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment was moving the game forward is 100% our Mason Thomas's return to the field and sealing the game with that safety. We all know that our Mason Thomas was going to be a force in the SEC this year, and he came out there in the most forceful way, only playing one half of the game, getting those 2 sacks, and the biggest one being that safety where he literally was the only lineman moving furniture, basically. Only defensive lineman actually attacking the quarterback, and he closed it out. So the closer closed. You can do the same too. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's no more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I also want to mention this. I don't want to sit here and gaslight you and say the Oklahoma Sooners offense is going to be the exact same as what it was under John Mateer. Anytime that you take a Heisman contending quarterback off the field and you replace him with, a different quarterback, it's going to look different, and you may have some offensive struggles. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be the same or Oklahoma's going to be the efficient or functional offense that Oklahoma was under John Mateer. All I'm saying is don't completely write it off based on what you saw in 2024. The Oklahoma Sooners are still one of the teams that should be highly thought of because they've got a really good defense, Jay. They've got skill position players at wide receiver and at tight end that are really good. The pass pro is great, like we just talked about. There's still reasons to believe in this Oklahoma Sooners team.
Oh, there's nothing but a bunch of reasons, and I'm going to give you a couple of them. And this is why some are still riding with the Sooners. Like, for example, former coach, I think he coached at Auburn, if I'm correct. Yeah, at Auburn, Gene Chizik, defensive-minded guy. He said he's still confident in Oklahoma, even with John Mateer being hurt, because the defense is next level. They can hold on till Mateer comes back. And Taylor Lehman said something similar. And so just like you said, this team is a lot different in comparison to last year's in a way of, one, I do now believe the defense is better than it was last season. That's nothing against how great the defense was last year with an incompetent offense, but that was kind of the point. If as long as you got a competent offense, this defense was going to flourish even more. Statistics are going to look better, look even more beautiful. Nationally, the defense is number 8 in the country in scoring defense at raw numbers. That's 9 points per game. In the run defense has given up 89 yards per game on average. That's 22nd in the country. Pretty darn good. Passing, we've only given up an average of 207 yards passing. That's number 4 in the country in raw numbers. Passing or whatnot. Let me see. What's this? This total defense. I'm sorry. 4th in total defense, 207 yards. And in passing defense, we're number 7 at 118 yards per game. So this defense did what it was supposed to do in the early games.
Yep.
Especially because the offense was doing what you needed in order for it to be successful. So we look at the numbers, man. This team is pretty darn good. If you look in conference, we're number 1 in total defense. We're number 2 in passing defense. We're number 7 in rushing defense because we actually give up some rushing yards. But in scoring defense, we're number 2, right behind Texas. Texas 7.8, we're at number 9. And we've only given up 3 touchdowns. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, that's really crazy, actually. Michigan and Auburn, not necessarily the best offenses in the country, but really good running offenses. We just saw Michigan and Justice Haynes do the same thing to Nebraska that they did to Oklahoma, with Haynes rattling off another 75-yard touchdown run. They just have that play in the playbook. Sharon Moore's just like, I guess it wasn't Moore this past weekend, but Poggy, he's like, just call the 75-yard touchdown play and let Justice run it for us. And it works. He just runs it from forever away, and they score touchdowns that way. It's just crazy. Then Auburn, I mean, they were one of the best rushing attacks in college football coming into the game, and they've got some of the best wide receivers in college football on that offense as well. And we saw it. Cam Coleman is legit. Now, I think they'll play more complete offenses as we go along. South Carolina, Lenora Sellers is looking great, even though their defense is cheeks. Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss is looking really, really good. Tennessee and Joey Aguilar looks really, really good. Alabama and Ty Simpson looks really, really good. Missouri and Ahmad Hardy is looking great. And also with Bo Pribula looking really, really good. LSU, not sure what to make of them just yet, but I think that they'll be an offense that looks really good by the end of the season. So there are going to be some tough offenses along the way. The defense is still one of the best in college football, and they're going to be good enough to keep these things close, keep these games close. Kent State, I don't worry about so much. I think Michael Hawkins is going to have a field day there, but I don't think that'll necessarily be a great reflection of what we'll see against Texas either, because two very different defenses. But I think that Oklahoma's defense is good enough to keep that Texas game close. If Michael Hawkins takes care of the ball, makes a few plays similar to what he did against Auburn last year, then I think they'll have a chance to win that game. I don't necessarily see Texas as a team that is just beating everybody, setting the world on fire. They were a better team last year with Quinn Ewers and some of those pass catchers they had at wide receiver. Obviously, they've had some injuries. They've had a lot of turnover on the offensive line. So, I still am fairly confident in Oklahoma. I think the offense still has something to prove, obviously, because you don't have John Mateer, you have Michael Hawkins Jr., but you had something to prove anyway because your run game has not shown up so far in 2025.
And that's the good thing for us right now with Hawkins. Like we talk about, the offenses that we've seen and what we're about to see right now in total offense. I mean, Texas is number 10 in the conference in total offense at like just about 440 yards per game, roughly. Right after them is who? South Carolina. They're dead last in the conference at 300 yards of total offense per game. The offense has not been humming the way, right. I thought that Lenore Sellers was going to go out there and be like overly dominant. Yeah, and it's just not as good as we hoped. Well, as they hoped. Passing, they're number 13 in the conference at 220. Rushing the ball, they're dead last in the conference at 80 yards per game. Like, their run game is worse than ours. Let's just put it that way. That's just kind of how it's crazy to even think because in our mind, Lenore Sellers was the boogeyman. He was going to go out there and do some stuff to a lot of people. And their defense has not been the greatest. Their defense is 11th in conference right now. They're 10th in passing defense. And they are, 14th in rushing defense, giving up 152 yards a game. And that includes the cupcakes that they've had to play. So, let's not pretend like they've just only played great teams. They've had cupcake games too. And so the challenge for them is they're going to have to show – they got a lot of bounce back to do too, especially with Lenore's struggles to start the season and dealing with the concussion or whatnot. Just like us, they've got things to prove. And with us, within 3 weeks, we'll see what they look like when we head out to William Bryce. But if Hawkins is running the gauntlet, go through Kent State, we lose the Texas game. I'm not saying we will. I think we still can win that game. I think there's a possibility because the defense and the offense is more competent, especially with the wide receivers coming back, et cetera, and the line actually knows how to block. All Hawkins got to do is get rid of the ball quick, run quick plays. We should be able to cook through that Texas secondary. But the defense is going to really carry us for real this year, just like it did last year, but it's not going to do as much work because we should still be able to convert third downs. So, we'll kind of see what that looks like. We have the top defensive third down conversion rate, if I'm correct as well. Like, nobody converts on third down on us like that. We're number one in the country at 17.86%. Now, granted, that's, of course, one, pretty darn good. That's tops in the SEC right now, and can't complain, right? Isn't that what we wanted? A really good defense? Well, you got it, folks. You got it.
Yeah, you got it. Now, if you could just get a run game going to go along with that defense, then you'll be playing some really good complementary football. But with Michael Hawkins at quarterback, with this defense, with the pass pro that it's provided, with Ben Arbuckle as the offensive coordinator, man, I just feel so much better about this team, him taking over this team, than I think we felt at any point last year. Last year it was just like, man, I don't know what we're going to get out of this team moving forward because we just can't do anything offensively. Getting what we got against, the big plays against Auburn, the run game against Alabama, like the fact that we got anything offensively during the year was just crazy. This year, even though you haven't gotten your run game going, you're still a better offense than what you were a year ago. And I think that gives Oklahoma a chance to keep moving forward and keep pushing the ball forward to trying to get to the playoff. All bets are off. You got to go win, and there's no excuses. I know Texas fans are out there saying that Oklahoma fans are going to make excuses if Michael Hawkins Jr. has to start in the Red River Showdown. No, there's no excuses. He's a second-year quarterback in a better system with a better offense around him. It's time to go play. It's put up or shut up time. Go win games. Nothing else matters. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay over at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms: TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Pinterest. we are there. So go follow us over there. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner.
I'm just excited to see what he looks like against Kent State. This is going to be a lot of fun.
That's going to